Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Voices for Voices TV show and podcast. I'm your host, founder of Voices for Voices, Justin Allen Hayes. We are excited to have you with us as you have been with our covering and just hitting that 270 total episode mark on our way to 300 in studio, out of studio episodes combined by the end of 2025. The guests that we have are powerful, they're inspirational, and they're just like you and I. And this episode, as well as we'll be doing a part two with this with the guests we have with us on this particular show, it is really amazing. I'm just learning more about him here and kind of the research leading up to our discussion, and just really blown away that he's taken time out of his day to to be with us and to talk and share and all that. So you may know him as the to the to the founder or president of Kingdom Comics. He is Brian Bradley. And Brian, we want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day for joining us and just thank you.
Well, thank you for having me on. It's an honor for me to actually come on here and talk about Kingdom Comics.
Absolutely. Uh, Maybe for me and our viewers and listeners that may not uh, be as familiar with you and your story and how you got your start, your inspiration for the work that you do, if you'd be able to maybe start kind of on the early years and how that
Okay.
really progressed.
Well, Kingdom Comics actually began in 2003. At that time, it was just me by myself. I would publish maybe one comic book every year, every 2 years, really part-time. Over the years, I brought in other creators, and right now we're publishing monthly. So we have a creative team of different writers and artists, really from all over the world, who contribute to the different books that we publish. But it started with me all by myself, like I said, in 2003. It was a decision I made because I wanted to glorify God and use my talents, and something that I wanted to do even prior to that, because as a child, I always wanted to be a comic book artist. So over the years, I kind of dabbled with that a little bit here, a little bit there. Even when we were children, my friends and I, we used to kind of make little comic books. And at one point, we even used to distribute them to the local libraries and local comic book stores. So it was very small time then. I got away from it, but along about 1999 and then 2000, I decided I wanted to start to do actual real comic books and do it on my own as a self-publisher. And there's been some highs, there's been some lows, but I stuck with it. And right now, like I said, we're publishing every month.
That's great. And I think for really anybody, they're never too old to dream. They're never too old to kind of
Mhm.
go after something that they may have been interested in, and
Absolutely.
even individuals that are on the younger side of the spectrum, watching and listening to families that that if you dream it and it's something that you have a passion and an interest, which I
Yeah.
sense from you with sticking with something that's long. There has to be something more than just the paycheck and stuff. There has to be maybe
All right.
that emotional involvement, the tie-in
I
with
tell
God and the faith. Yeah,
I tell people doing Kingdom Comics or anything you love, oftentimes it's a labor of love because the returns don't necessarily come back right away as far as financially, but you labor at it anyway because you love it. And oftentimes the return is just seeing the completed product, and in my case, the satisfied customer who come back for more. Ultimately, of course, this is a ministry, and really sowing seeds of the gospel through our comic books. I mean, I emphasize our comic books are not Bible stories. They
hmm
are original characters, original storylines. I tell people we're kind of like a Christian Marvel Comics.
hmm
So you got all the superheroes, you got the supervillains, you got the dynamics between characters that we've made up, fictional characters with the the essence of the gospel is represented in all the subject matter of our books. It's just from a different stance.
Yeah, and for maybe viewers and listeners that don't have that upbringing, can you just you touched on it, but just really emphasize, how important that is. That probably is a big part of, when you wake up every day and when you go to work, that it's not just Brian Bradley Kingdom Comics. It's a higher power, somebody that is really
Well,
guiding this, and the ministries for him and for his kingdom.
we're ambassadors, all of us. When we've given our life to the Lord, um, He doesn't take us to heaven right away. There's a purpose for us here on the earth, and part of our purpose is to fulfill our callings by using our gifts and talents, and that way He works through us. And yeah, we are here on assignment, and we are ambassadors, and it's important to remember that my life is not for Brian Bradley. My life is for God to use me to reach others using my talents and my gifts. And I've been blessed to this point to really they're all pretty much fully manifested right now. Everything He's given me, everything He's, I believe, made me to be. I mean, as far as a husband and a father, but
Mhm.
also in terms of the gifts and the talents which He's given me. And this is Kingdom Comics.
Yeah, and there's so many different aspects of comics, just that whole process of, as you mentioned, you have the characters, and they got their
Mhm.
profiles, and that's like one side, and then the story for a particular comic and who they're interacting with, and all of that. Then you mentioned that, the illustrator, and there's a lot of moving pieces. So there's uh, I would think a good amount of project management in the scheme of getting all the pieces together, and obviously that takes time. It doesn't happen overnight, and some I've run into this myself. Is you have an idea, you have thoughts, and it might not manifest till that first tangible thing for 6 months or a year or 2 years. And it's hard to talk about that to individuals that, I don't want to say they're not entrepreneurial, but you have to get it really into the nuts and bolts of it. It's like, well, why are you doing this thing today? Well, because it is going to have an impact, and it's going to be needed in a month or 6 months,
Yeah,
and so perseverance, I think, is huge,
absolutely.
especially when you're managing like those different pieces of, like, hey, I could give up right now, like they're, because so and so's behind, and I got this deadline and that deadline. Can you talk about that perseverance, and how you kind of manage those pieces?
Eyes of faith, the ability to see something before it manifests. When you work on a project, you have to see the end result. Um, so that has helped me knowing that what I'm striving for, we're gonna bring it to pass. And with our artists and with our writers, I mean, at this point, we're flowing, so we don't really struggle too much with knowing that we're going to have a comic book every month. I mean, we just have done it long enough now to where we trust the process. Um, Originally, it was a little bit more of a challenge because it's just me by myself.
Mm,
But even then, I could still see the end as I began. And I kind of kept my focus on, and still, every goal before me, I keep my eyes on the end project.
mm,
So, and I believe and I have faith that we're gonna bring everything to pass, and it does. It comes to pass. As far as we now, like I've said, we publish comic books regularly. We publish actual physical real life comic books, and but you got to stick with it. You have to, the Bible says you have to count the cost, and you have to know what you're doing and what it's going to cost you. You have to be prepared to pay that cost. But if you are, I think God is faithful and He will bring to pass what He's called you to do. You just have to just stick with it.
yeah. So beautifully said. And having that faith, and and
Mhm.
believing in the times of you know, not
Keep your
desperate
eyes on the
times of
prize.
despair. Yeah, yeah. You have to have those eyes and that goal, that kind of bullseye. Like here's where here's where we're going, and there's going to be a bunch of different pieces and little
Yeah,
things, administrative things that we might not think about. Like, oh, well, if we want to have a trademark on, a particular character, a particular series, there's paperwork and there's a process, and that could take
yeah,
a certain amount of time.
and you need more than just yourself. Also, the pieces have to fit together to where you have, your artists, your writers, but you also have your administrative people,
Yeah.
and all that. It all has to fit together because none of us is called to do the whole thing by ourselves. Especially something like Kingdom Comics. I
Yeah.
could never do this all by myself, and I knew that. But the Lord has provided people, and is yet providing people, and it's moving. It's not stagnant. We are moving.
Yeah. And so I'm just thinking, so trust in obviously trust in the Lord, but trust in
Mhm.
those individuals who are uh, part of your team.
Absolutely.
Did that come easy and natural, or did it
No.
take time? Because for me, it's taken some time.
Yeah, it takes time. I mean, over the years, there have been several individuals who I thought, maybe were perfect fits for Kingdom Comic, and they turned out not to be. And you come across a lot of different people, and sometimes that can become discouraging. But in it all, there are right now those who are part of Kingdom Comics who should be. And but it wasn't easy. You go through a lot of different people, and it can be discouraging. But right now, I think the right people are in place, and people who I trust, people who I've worked with now for several years, and we all are pulling from the same rope. And again, I attribute that to God. I contribute it to Him providing the right people. And sometimes it's not who I expect it to be. And sometimes people who I expect to be a part of Kingdom Comics are not. But as of today, we got a good little team.
Yeah, and I
Pieces
like
are
that.
in place.
Yeah, and I like you said, you're all pulling from the same rope. It's uh,
Mhm.
however, whatever it took to get there, but that's where you're at, and you have that sense of peace
Mhm.
at this point. But again, it's taken some time that it's not
Sure.
a win the lottery and all of a
Right.
sudden like boom, the people
That would be
just show
nice.
up and then you're
Yeah.
yeah. So what excites you the most about comics? Was it the fact that as a young boy, that was something that you were interested in, and it continues to this day? I mean, I'm thinking for myself. I mean, I wanted to be an astronaut, and all these just big things, and they one reason or another didn't happen, and I think they're all in again, everything's in God's time, and for Him. Uh, I guess what's that like today of kind of realizing that wow I I was able to kind of keep things keep your mind on the prize, I think is what you
Mhm.
mentioned.
Well, I like the visual art as a kid. By
Okay.
the time I became an adolescent, the stories started to hit. And I used
Uh,
to love the X-Men. I fell in love with the X-Men. I mean, when I was a small boy, I liked the art of Superman, the art of Batman. But when I hit adolescence, I kind of came back to comic books, and it was because of the X-Men. And I fell in love with the storylines. I fell in love with the writing, and to be able to, I mean, I think that I'm probably more of a writer than an artist. I mean, I do both, but I really relate to some of those stories back then. The Dark Phoenix saga, the Brood, the X-Men storyline dealing with the Brood. That really got me into comic books more than ever. And just the years that followed, I kept up with it. I don't keep up as much with secular comic books now.
hmm
I think they kind of veered off and they do different subjects, and I don't. I'm a fool with. I mean, I would like to. I've picked up an X-Men comic book here and there, but the writing and storylines, I can't get into them anymore. But in the 80s, 90s, yeah. And to be able to do that now, it's a blessing. You know, I enjoy being able to write comic books and then publish our own stuff now, and even doing a little bit of the artwork. So it's a satisfying thing
Is
that I've come to this
artwork,
point.
yeah, it, can you just maybe explain like on a high level how uh I mean the artwork obviously you gotta imagine it and think about it and then put it on paper. Is that something that because of all those details that was that an interest that you always had that aspect and then you're just able to get into that now? Because I know like for myself, I love art. I love going to art galleries and just
Mhm.
enjoy it. But when I think of like, oh my gosh, like I don't even know where I would have started with one character, one person. For maybe that person out there that's thinking like, yeah, I really enjoy this, but I draw stick figures or
Well, enjoy what you do. I mean, I look at some of my artwork, even from a few years ago, and I think it's terrible. And if you go back to way back, childhood stuff, it's like this doesn't look good at all. But when I did it, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed every step of it. I enjoyed the stick figures. I enjoyed when I learned how to draw muscles a little bit. You know, I learned how to draw backgrounds. So every step of the way, even though now I can look at it and think, yeah, this isn't very good. I still and I always enjoy to draw. So as long as I have that joy, and I can see the progress. And that's also inspirational when you can see your own progress. Uh, so it keeps me going. And
yeah.
I think that's true with probably anything. So when you can see your own progress with anything, that kind of inspires you to keep going because you know you're getting better.
Have you always been able to be uh, grounded where you're able to be in that moment? Because I can just at least think in my mind that how focused one would have to be, whether it's the artwork or the story or the character profiles. Is it easy for you to, be in that moment of being present? Or is that just something over the years that your mind kind of knows like, hey, when I'm getting ready to do this, I'm going to go to my spot and I need and my mind just going to know it's time to focus.
I never knew I was going to do this until my adult years.
Okay.
A lot of it as a child was just fun, just messing around with it. But I always came back to it. And in that sense, I was more grounded in it than I realized because it was always something in me that would pull me back to it. And even when I wasn't particularly interested in going in this direction, even when I had other goals and thoughts, I would always be drawn back, pardon the pun, come back to Kingdom Come, or not even Kingdom Comics. So I'd always come back to drawing comic books. And I mean, sometimes I would just scribble or just draw a superhero, but it was always in me. So I don't know if there's ever really been a time when it wasn't. I mean, even if I didn't realize it, at any given time, even when I was doing other stuff, I think the interest, it wouldn't take much to spark that interest. You know, I've had friends who would be like, hey, you want to do a comic book? And out of the clear blue, I'd be like, yeah, of course. So it was always there, even if I didn't realize it was there. But I
Yeah,
guess as a child, I hoped to be this, but during the adolescent years and whatnot, you really didn't think that was logical to one day have your own comic. It was in you, the desire was there, but at some point it's like that's illogical. Why am I gonna do comic books? I have my own comic book company. That doesn't make any sense. But it was always there.
and one of the experiences I I have is being in that just being in that mindset without almost knowing you're in that mindset.
Mhm.
An example, I we did a mission trip a couple of years ago to Ukraine, took some humanitarian supplies over, went over and kind of lived it with the people for a few days, and was able
Mhm.
to interview a couple people, one in the legislature. But um, when I got back, one of the biggest questions was like, well, how did you know you wanted to do that? Like how did your mind? Because I was just made aware of the opportunity maybe a week and a half before I ended up going. And so it really wasn't on the radar. I had another trip in Western Europe that was planned, and so that was kind of like my cover story for my family because
Mhm.
just for obviously safety things, and my wife would not let me get on the plane and all those things. And so when I got back, people ask, well, like, well, why did you do this, and how did you know when, and then we had a guest on, and he's Ukrainian descent. He lives in Ohio. He teaches at a university, and so I had him on the show, and we are just talking about his background, his experience of being Ukrainian, and all the just the craziness and things with the war going on. And it was
Mhm.
after we had finished our conversation. I mean, we were still on Zoom, but it wasn't recording. Um, it just came up, and I said, how can people help? And he said, well, they can, donate to this organization, and this helps get, humanitarian and military and all those things. And he's like, he goes, well, I don't know what your schedule's like, but if you want to bring your show over and do, get a couple interviews and just, get some, just like some short TikToks and videos of, being here. And so I started thinking, I was like, you know what? Like, I think I might do it. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I didn't know how I was going to manage that. Uh, but it was the seed was already in my mind for something like that. It doesn't have to be
Yep.
Ukraine, but just something of
Mhm.
service, at least for me, when opportunities come up, if I always say, if it's not going to bankrupt me and my family, and yeah, that was super dangerous, and there were missile
Mhm.
uh, strikes and counter missiles to take them out, and so all that was going on. And I was kind of living that, um, but I kind of hearken that a little bit to with you that the comic books, that was kind of like I was already embedded in your mind. So when, like you said,
Mhm.
if somebody said, hey, you want to do a comic book, like you didn't really had to take a whole lot of time. I mean, it's okay if somebody
Yeah.
takes, extra
Mhm.
time to
Sure.
think through, but your mindset was already there of like,
Yeah.
well, yeah, let's do it. And they're like, what? Like, yeah, right now. Like,
Yep. It's always been there.
yeah. Uh,
Um, yeah. So
what?
it's.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sorry. Go
When,
go ahead.
oh, no, no, I didn't mean to cut you off. I,
You can go
I
ahead.
okay. So, it's not- um, it, yeah, so I think that's something that's important for any viewer, any listener, no matter what age they are, if they're parent or uh, a guardian, that uh, you know let let our people dream and have
Absolutely.
that in their mind, not to squash it because, well, this sounds silly, and well,
Mhm.
maybe a little bit like in, earlier formative years, but if sticks with them as they continue growing, and opportunities and the ways and the means are come available, that uh, I found, like with me, with my parents, that they were my biggest supporters. They weren't always able to financially support, but they were always there and said, you know what, like, I'm kind of scary, but
With me, I wish that it were, recognized more growing up because my parents, they were very supportive, but I don't think they fully recognized that, I wanted to be an artist. I mean, that just for them, I also wanted to be a basketball player.
mhm,
Um, and it just was kind of all there together. But I think, and again, no fault with them,
mm,
but had more of a focus been on Brian wants to be a comic book artist, and who knows, maybe even earlier, I would have made it and been a better artist. And all types of different scenarios played through my mind. But I guess the point is that the road may have zigzagged, whatever, but I ended up here anyway. And I did. I ended up right where the Lord wants me. Maybe some zigzags and some off-road traveling, but here I am.
And so
But
that's so
it is
great.
important to recognize your children and their talents, even if they do seem frivolous or childlike. Recognize the talents that your kids have and push them in that direction.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
give
not
them
all,
opportunities and yeah.
yep, yep.
We're getting close to the end of this particular for part one. We'll come back with part two, but before we finish up, how can how can people that aren't familiar with you with Kingdom Comics, how can they pick up copies,
Okay, yeah,
stay
I can
in
tell you.
touch?
What we're trying to, or what we've just released now is an app where
Okay,
we've published over 130 different comic books, and we put them on our app. We have a new app where you can download all of them. We have an app for Apple as well as for Google Play. And for $4.99 a month, you have access to all 130 plus of our comic books that you can download on your phone or tablet. Plus, we're adding a new comic book every month. So that's the main thing that we're doing right now. And through that, you get an entire catalog of Kingdom Comics and all the books that we've published to date. And to find that, if you went to our website, kingdomcomicsonline.com, you'd see information and it'll give you a link to where you can download the app on your Apple or your Android. And you can check out all that we've done. There's a lot on there from different artists, different writers, even writers from Marvel Comics. I mean, Joe Rubinstein, who contributed to the Wolverine limited series, among a lot of other things. He has done, I think, three covers for, yeah, he's done three different covers for us. We've had many different guest artists who have done our different comic books. We have The Anointed Seven as our main title. We
okay,
got Kingdom Comics Presents. We have Votary. We have Sir Caliburn. We Are Refahim. We have Quiver, and we have Bridge. So those are our different titles. Like I said, we're like a Christian Marvel Comics, but we're better. So
yeah.
I just wanted to get that out there. That again, that's kingdomcomicsonline.com.
And do check that website out, and that app just sounds amazing. To have
Mhm.
access to all the previous comics, and then as they roll out each month, that becomes part of that catalog that you get access to. And we all
That's right.
have a lot of us have a smart device that is either Android or Apple, so that's a great way to uh, get in touch and have people
Absolutely.
be able to consume your content wherever they're at. If they're traveling, if they're on a plane, a train, if they're on the beach, they're
I
wherever
recommend it.
they're at, and that's so awesome. And I'm going to ask you a little bit about the app when we come back for part two. But Brian, thank you so much for joining us on this part one of the show. It's been a beautiful conversation,
Thank you for having me.
inspiring, absolutely. And for you, our listeners or viewers, thank you again for tuning in, whether this is your first episode or you've been with us for all 270 and counting. We can't do this without you. And until next time, please be a voice for you or somebody in need. We'll see you next time.